Hey there, everyone, and welcome to another weekly video. We're going to be looking at the astrology between the 13th and the 19th of June. So I really think this is going to be a weird kind of week. Let me share the chart with you. It starts with the ingress of Mercury in Gemini. So I'm not going to say that's weird. As an owner of a Mercury in Gemini, I'm not going to complain about that. But we'll have Mercury obviously come back into Gemini after starting its retrograde there, going back into Taurus, and now back into Gemini. So Mercury is still retracing steps until it hits 4 degrees, which will happen next week. I believe. Let me just check my notes here. By the time it gets out of the shadow, happens on the 18th. So yes, it does happen later this week. So once Mercury hits 4 degrees, technically out of the shadow, but for all intents and purposes, I would feel pretty good about moving forward, most definitely. Now that Mercury is back into its, one of the signs that it rules. It's obviously one of the better versions of Mercury that we do get. So it goes into Hermes moves in on the 13th in the Northern Hemisphere, and then here on Tuesday, the 14th. And then on the 14th, we also have the full moon in Sagittarius. So that falls across 23 degrees of Sagittarius with the sun there at 23 Gemini. So this particular lunation, of course, the key factor here is it's a Jupiter ruled lunation. So where is Jupiter? It's fairly newly still in Aries. So it's a bit over a month now. Jupiter is at 5 Aries. So technically speaking, it's still within its own Egyptian term or bound. So we do have a very fiery full moon. We do have a very dynamic, very active, and this kind of getting up, getting going. So this new moon, or sorry, I should say full moon, may inspire you to make up for lost time. We've got Mars in Aries, we have Jupiter in Aries, and this full moon in a Jupiter ruled sign may be sort of, get those horses ready behind the gate to, open up and sort of run with it. So we do have also the fact that Neptune is forming that square to the lunation as well. So Neptune there in Jupiter ruled Pisces. So we might witness collectively amping up of facts versus belief, or information versus opinion, or facts versus opinion, or feelings and opinions versus data. So we might sort of see that on the collective level get amped up a fair bit. And this could also show up about a bit of confusion about which direction do we want to sort of steer those horses, where do we want to move towards. So there's like maybe a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of confidence, a lot of that sort of that the fires are getting really stoked, but with that confusion of Neptune, the horse could be a little bit maybe not quite spooked, but which direction are we sort of, charging off into the sunset, proverbially speaking. So this particular full moon obviously is going to light up the Sagittarius part of your chart. And then, of course, by default, where Aries is as well, because of the lunation ruler. So I think this is going to be a very dynamic, quite obvious in the way that sort of polarization of facts, information, data, science versus maybe beliefs, religion, opinions, faith and philosophy. So those kind of are going to be a little bit pitted against each other potentially this week, and could get really heated up, especially with Jupiter and Mars in the mix. So the rest of the week is the odd stuff. And this is because on the 16th in all of the time zones, so let me just clear my screen and bring that up so you can see it, is that we do have the sun make a couple of aspects concurrently, which are, a little bit not one way or the other, I guess, is a way to say that. So we have the square to Saturn, the trine to Saturn, and then we also then have that square to Neptune. So we've got that sun, that planet of vision, of clarity, of wisdom, of confidence, self-expression, CEO type energy, forming a dual sort of double hit or a double whammy of Sirius Saturn, that trine influence. So this in of itself could be very helpful for what I call like a CEO energy, the sun and Saturn coming together. It's making some, moving forward with decisions or moving forward with actions, or like, yep, I'm willing to commit to this, to take it on, or, let's recognize where a boundary or a limit or a responsibility, where you can sort of step up to the plate like a CEO and sort of take the lead, and this is all under the energy of the full moon. And so it's like, where do you kind of, you're taking the reins of the horse, and where are you steering it towards? But then you've also got that influence of Neptune, the square. So it is this kind of a bit of confusion or fogginess around it at the same time, or maybe saying yes on the one hand or no with the other, or it's very like boundaries being obliterated by the sheer water of Neptune, or it's kind of that rock in a hard place with Saturn in the mix. So this is going to be a very unusual kind of planetary play between these two particular planets with the sun, the sun forming those aspects together. And under that air element, particularly the sun, Saturn, this could be maybe the committing to the new ideas, the new projects or new plans. Now that Mercury's there, also in the same house as the sun now, offering a little bit of that support. And Mercury's moving quick. So it's like, yeah, let's do the thing, decide and do, commit, yep, we're on. And then all of a sudden, maybe second guessing yourself, or is this really the right thing with Neptune? Or maybe there's some details, or, something that isn't quite seen or quite visible, or maybe a little bit of a deceptive quality, or am I really going to move forward with this? So yeah, it's very interesting how this could play out. And with the moon coming towards Pluto at the same time, to me, this does suggest, err on the side of caution. If there's that little spidey sense with Neptune coming through there, or there's a little something just doesn't read right or feel right, trust those instincts and maybe hold off or wait, or maybe until some more information comes through, particularly as Mercury is still in that shadow zone until it passes 4 degrees. So now, there might be a little bit of a setback, or still something not quite forthcoming, I guess is the point there. So there is this idea here of maybe clarity, Saturn, fog, and Neptune, or certainty with Saturn, and then uncertainty with Neptune there. Committing to a creative vision, but then questioning that creative vision or expression as well. Maybe feeling restricted with Saturn, but confused at the same time. So yeah, that's what I mean. It's a bit kind of, weird in that way, in the sense of how do we make these very, very opposing energies somehow find some harmony with each other. And that's why I think Mercury in the mix is going to help. It's maybe thinking things through, getting more information, double checking the details before you move forward with things. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. It's sort of like a lot happening. But yeah, the Saturn Neptune, they are sort of polar opposites in their significations, the boundaries and the boundaryless. And so when it comes to the sun, when it comes to the expression, your self-expression, maybe the Gemini house, it's almost this, just be careful what you commit to or what you say yes to. You could be biting off more than you can chew, or there might be something else in the mix that isn't quite clear or confusing. Like, I guess it's maybe not the day to take the Aussie approach and sort of be like, oh, she'll be right, mate. You know, it is kind of, yeah, do that due diligence, particularly with Saturn at the station degree still, actually, and so is Neptune. So there is a bit of weightiness to whatever happens around this particular time. Then, of course, we have Venus comes up to the North Node. So she's there at the same time, which you can see down the bottom. So we can sort of also see at some level there is a push or a desire to move forward. I'm not an astrologer that kind of poo-poos the North Node. Obviously, there's the mundane components to what the North Node can mean, but also what does it mean on the more personal or in the sort of, in our lives. And this really feels like an opening or a portal for Venusian topics. So obviously, there was the Uranus mix last week, and now we get the North Node mix. And so maybe that the thing that you tried or tested or explored last week has opened up that portal of possibility or that potential new path for Venus to therefore, move along and forward with. And so this might bring that kind of maybe breakthrough or possibility or potentiality around some of those Venusian situations, or that house of Taurus, or if you've got any planets around 22 degrees of the fixed signs, this is going to also see the North Node square those. So this, there might be somebody who can lend you support. Let's face it, Venus is very well resourced in Taurus, so someone might be able to lend you that support to make a decision. And I really think that sort of support, or a third party, a friend, a sibling, a relationship, something like along those lines, or a female in general, might help you in some way, because then Venus, she's going to move forward, and this is going to happen on the 18th or 19th, depending on your time zone. So obviously the later time is the Australian one. So from the future. Venus, yeah, so Venus is going to then make the exact same, well, not the exact same, but she's also going to hit Saturn. So we've got Venus at 25 degrees, squaring Saturn, and then she's going to sextile Neptune. So she's activating the same planets that the sun has done. So this really does speak to a creative project again, or something to do with relationships or expression or play, and things of that type of nature. So Venus, of course, she's in this Algol territory now, isn't she? And she's also going to be activating the degree that Mercury stationed on in the first week of the month. So that's something to watch for as well. Is there something, when these planets trigger the same degrees over and over, there's something to it. So this might be somebody that helps you support a problem that's worrying you. This could be someone that comes along and helps you, someone who's a resource, or someone who maybe can help you with money, or someone that can just help you with that moral support to make a decision, or to be that person who helps you through some confusion, especially with that, she's hit the North Node. She feels like she's got something or knows something that maybe, you don't. Well, you could be that person who is the Venus and helps somebody else who is, stuck in a rut, or, needs some kind of guidance. And, Venus is a lucky charm. She's in her own sign. She has passed some difficulty. I mean, obviously she's got to hit Algol yet, but remember we spoke about in the first week how she can be a protector as well. So that's something to keep in mind this week, particularly as we do have these planets the sun and Venus hitting both Saturn and Neptune with a full moon, which can also be heightened relationship drama. The sun and the moon in opposition will or can highlight that. So I do think that there is going to be something stirred up this week. It's going to be a little bit confusing. There may be some pressure or having to decide or feeling pressurized to decide, what side you're on. And you might feel like you need some support or an outlet or even some comfort. So it's a very interesting week, the way that this plays out. So yeah, I guess we just have to wait and see. And then of course, Mercury is therefore out of the shadow now. So there is a sense that while this is all going on, that there is, things are back on track, so to speak. Obviously, yes, Saturn's now retrograde. Neptune's very close to retrograding. And I mean, I don't really put as much emphasis on Neptune because it's so far out and spends so much time retrograde. But Saturn is a little bit different. It will carry a little bit of weight in, real time when it's turning around, particularly if you've got planets around the 25th degree of fixed signs, or ascendant midheaven, for instance, or if you're in a Saturn perfection year, you'll probably feel, as these planets interact with Saturn. So Saturn's kind of, going backwards, and then the sun's kind of like going, oh, but hey, and Venus is going, oh, but hey. So there is this kind of feeling that there's restriction, or there's weight, or there's a limitation or a block. But, Venus is also coming through with the goods. Mercury's coming through with the goods now that they are in, good placements sign-wise. So yeah, it's, I think this is sort of one of the more complex weeks of June. The aspects aren't huge this month in terms of, the multitude of them, but there's a lot of repetitiveness, Sun, Saturn, Sun, Neptune, and then of course Venus on the North Node, and then Venus, Saturn, and Neptune all under the full moon week. So and then Mercury gets out of its shadow. So there's a lot that can be revealed, but it might take a little bit of that Saturnian perseverance before you can sort of see through that Neptunian smokescreen or confusion or that lack of clarity. So full moon, some Saturn aspects, and Mercury out of the shadow. I feel like this is, we're really starting to get into the astrology of June now. And, some of the kind of, messier components are behind us. So anyway, that is the week of the 13th through to the 19th. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video.